To celebrate May the 4th, it only felt fitting to make my first 100% video related to the Star Wars franchise. Now unfortunately, I only started making the video on the 4th of May, so it's a smidge late. But today, I will be completing LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. I'll be honest here, I haven't watched much of the new trilogy, so I'm coming into this game pretty much blind, but I've heard great things and I love a good LEGO game. The Force Awakens has a very nice 69 achievements.
Nice.
However, I will only be completing 100% of the base game, so this excludes the 20 DLC achievements. This brings the grand total down to 49, so let's get right into it. There are a couple of ways you can go about completing your first playthrough of a LEGO game. Some people, they like to rush through the levels as quickly as possible. I mean, after all, you've got to play them again in free play. However, me, I'm far too OCD to be leaving all those juicy studs just sitting there. So naturally, I take my time, work through the story, breaking everything I see, trying to reach every nook and cranny, and just simply trying to collect as much as possible. However, the main goal for me is to try and find the elusive red bricks. These really help speed up the game. So jumping straight into the prologue, the Battle of Endor. The game very quickly introduced me to some unfamiliar mechanics. Stud multiplier for achieving a combo, which I described in great detail on my stream. You get more studs if you combo, okay. And the new multi-build, which allows you to build the same bricks but in two different places, both of which I had never seen before. Multi-build very quickly led me to get my first achievement. Unlearn what you have learned. Rebuilding a buildable. And in doing so, I obtained the first mini-kit of the playthrough, one of 180, and even collected the first red brick just moments later, very much to my surprise. What? What? It didn't take long for me to have yet another new mechanic chucked in my face. This is crazy! Blaster battles, and after completing my first one, this popped a whopping 3 achievements. Quick on the draw, for having Han defeat an enemy preparing an attack. They're shooting at both of us, for completing a blaster battle. And I'm getting pretty good at this, for completing a blaster battle without dying. A rather quick boost to our achievement percentage. Working my way through to the end of the level, I got 2 achievements for completing it. Oh, 2 more achievements! Complete the Battle of Endor, and obtain True Jedi in any level. Woo! Plus an extra achievement along the way, with 4 legs. P-50 Stormtroopers, we need more troops. Which gives us a ridiculous 7 achievements after just the prologue alone. A rather healthy start if you ask me. This excitement, however, was very short-lived, as I quickly came across what I found to be a very tedious bug in the modern LEGO games. And that's this damn joystick minigame. Oh, this does not work. See, this minigame looks simple, easy, and quite fun to be honest, but that's if you're playing on console. On the PC ports, the minigame has a major flaw. Yeah, this does not work. It doesn't actually register how the joystick moves on your controller, so it can take an absolute eternity to complete. Fortunately, I did find a way to bypass this by changing my controls in the settings to the keyboard. That changes the minigame from rotating the joystick on the controller to simply just spamming K. But that meant that every single time this minigame came up, which, I'll face it, it was quite often, I'd have to switch my controls to keyboard, complete the minigame, switch back to controller again, and then continue on with my day. This was a really, really tedious process, and it just ruined the momentum in the levels. But with that rant aside, the achievements very quickly began to dry up after the prologue, with only 2 miscellaneous achievements in the next 10 chapters. Starting with one that, I'll be frank, not too proud to have unlocked this early. Miss your target 10 times in a blaster battle. That's not an achievement I wanted to get. Start playing Valorant all over again. And a little bit later, I can get cocky for defeating 100 TIE Fighters. Completing each of these chapters popped their own separate achievement. I'll come back for you for completing Chapter 1, Assault on Jakku. Classified, me too, for completing Chapter 2, Escape from the Finalizer. The Garbage will do for completing Chapter 3, Nema Outpost. What was the second time for completing Chapter 4, The Eravana. Eyes of a Man Who Wants to Run for completing Chapter 5, Maz's Castle. Don't Let These Dogs Scare You for completing Chapter 6, Battle of Takodana. You Wouldn't Like It for completing Chapter 7, The Resistance. And this is when the game decided that I'd had enough for the day, because upon completing Chapter 8, I received the achievement, Is There a Garbage Chute? And was also graced by the first crash of the playthrough. Why have I got a black screen? Fortunately, I only had to replay about 10 minutes of the level. Definitely not ideal, but it could have been a whole lot worse if I had to do the entire level again. So before you know it, I was back up and running with a bag full of explosives for completing Chapter 9, Destroy Starkiller Base. It Belongs for Me for completing Chapter 10, the finale. And finally, Speechless for completing the epilogue, Luke's Island. With a little added bonus, there has been an awakening for completing The Force Awakens, at least the main story. Now there are a total of 6 side missions, which as far as I could work out, are based on events that are not strictly visually shown in the movie, but that are referenced along the way. I started off with Rathtar hunting, where we join Han and Chewie, you guessed it, hunting Rathtars, which popped the achievement for completing the level. Used to have a bigger crew, and moved me straight into the Crimson Corsair, where we join Sidon Ithano, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, correct me if I'm wrong, aka the Crimson Corsair, and his crew infiltrating a First Order base to steal a ship. Obtaining the achievement, the Crimson Corsair, for completing it. Yeah, I know they were quite creative with that name. I then very swiftly jumped into Poe to the Rescue, where, quite shockingly, we join Poe as he rescues Admiral Akbar from the clutches of the First Order. It's a trap! Now before I continue, I do just want to pause here for a moment. As of recording this on the 19th of May, Tom Kane, the legendary voice actor for Admiral Akbar, sadly passed away the night before. Tom Kane was the voice of so many beloved characters of mine over the years, namely Admiral Akbar and the infamous Takeo Masaki from the Call of Duty franchise. So it was a real shock when I read about this, especially seeing as I was just talking about him maybe a week prior. Oh, does he play Takeo? I searched him up yesterday. Not yesterday, the last time I streamed. He does like loads of the voices in video games. I didn't see Takeo on the list, but I didn't look that hard. So I just wanted to take a little moment to remember a legend who voiced so much of my childhood. Getting back to the 100%, I got the achievement Test. Never tell me the odds for completing Poe to the Rescue. Moving me straight into our 4th mission, Lord Santeca's Return, where we follow Lord Santeca as he returns to Jakku. And I believe this mission acts as sort of like a prequel to the movie, and upon completing it, I obtained the achievement, Traveled Too Far and Seen Too Much. The next mission, Trouble Over Tau, introduced quite the twist. The mission has you playing as the First Order Captain, Captain Phasma, as they invade a Resistance ship. Very similar to the beginning of A New Hope, when Darth Vader invades Leia's ship. This threw me off quite a bit at the start of the level, and I'll be honest, it took me a concerningly long amount of time to piece that all together. As I said, I don't really know too much about Star Wars, as you can probably tell from this clip where I say that I'm playing as the Resistance. Wait. Yeah, I am playing as the bad people, no? The Resistance. But one thing I do know is achievement hunting. And for completing Trouble Over Tau, I got the achievement, Hello, were you looking for me? God damn it. Hello, were you looking for me? This left just the one side mission left, where we once again are playing as the First Order as they attack an Ottoman leader for information. Oh, I had a very nice surprise during this level. An unexpected achievement. Oh, nice. Stop Kylo time, you know. There's nothing better than the surprise pop of an achievement. Just gets my brain ticking. Working through to the end of the level, I got another 3 achievements for completing it. Oh wow, 3. It's a trap for completing Ottogun Assault. The new Jedi will rise for collecting True Jedi on all levels, and it's true, all of it, for completing new Star Wars adventure levels. Which brings us to the end of the first playthrough of LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. So, how did we do? Well, by the end of the playthrough, I'd attained a whopping 30 of the 49 base achievements, which I'm very pleased with. However, I knew there was still a long way to go with the free play. I had only collected 57 of 180 minikits, 9 of 18 red bricks, 67 of the 205 characters, 49 of the 85 vehicles, and just 62 of 250 gold bricks. So I'd best get moving if I want to finish this game before Forza Horizon 6 comes out. With that in mind, I decided to get cracking straight on with free play. There isn't really too much to talk about in this section if I'm honest. It was largely just replaying the levels we'd already played through, using the new wide array of characters and abilities to collect all the minikits and all the red bricks in each level. The collectible finder red brick honestly made this a breeze, guiding you to every location of every single collectible. And don't get me wrong, wasn't perfect, wasn't always the easiest to figure out. One instance in particular comes to mind in the side mission Trouble Over Town, where you have to destroy 5 of these asteroid thingies. The finder shows me where the asteroids are, but it doesn't actually tell you where the gun is, like the artillery gun that you use to destroy them. So I did have to replay the level in order to obtain this one. For collecting all 10 minikits in my first level, I got the achievement Just a Scavenger, and this would be my last achievement for a good few hours. Usually I very much like to have regular achievements to keep my brain ticking, but with all the collectibles being, well, collected, that sort of kept my brain chugging along quite nicely. Which was all well and good until Chapter 8. See, I personally think the game needs a different name. I think it should have been called LEGO Star Wars Chapter 8 Fights Back. Because, once again, Chapter 8 just did not want to be completed peacefully. With not just one bug that caused me to restart, but 2. To begin with, I couldn't use a detonator on this silver door, which prevented me from progressing any further, which was a requirement because there was a mini kit on the other side of the door. But after I restarted, it then decided it would bug out on the super strength before I'd even made it to that section. So, yeah, that was fun. After a little bit of research, I learned that the game has yet another flaw on PC, which is that the super detonator red brick, well, it stops you from being able to throw your detonators, like your explosives, at some of the silver objects, because you have to guide it, you have to pick a target, which in this case just completely stun locked me out of the level. Unfortunately, Death Guys was there to save me on this one. See, I could have been stuck here for hours. And with rent number 2 over, let's get back into it. My next achievement came as quite a shock to me, honestly, when I made a rather unfortunate mistake and tried to activate this panel here using C-3PO rather than BB-8. Popping the achievement, not the droid you're looking for using the wrong type of droid on an access panel. Oops. Which was the last real noteworthy thing in the free play levels. That was until I completed all 18 of them. Which popped the achievements Red Leader for purchasing all red bricks, and I can fly anything for collecting all minikits in the game. That meant there was only one step remaining, and that is the cleanup. Having completed every chapter, I only had 4 planets left to complete: Starkiller Base, Dakar, Takodana, and Jakku. Now, in order to complete these planets, I would have to collect a number of carbonite bricks, which can then be used to bring classic Star Wars figures back into the game. Various kinds of missions, including general missions, races, First Order, Resistance, Bounty Hunter, Scavenger, and Translate missions. As you can probably tell, plenty for me to be getting on with. I chose to start off with the biggest amongst them, Jakku. With 10 carbonite bricks, 54 gold bricks, 6 races and 24 missions, this was a slog. Now, I didn't have any particular order that I went about this. I just sort of worked my way across the planet from one side to another. Some of the missions were a little bit sort of samey, repetitive. with only a real few distinct types of missions. Obviously the races, they're pretty self-explanatory. You use a variation of vehicles, beat the time, simple as that. But the other missions sort of vary between ground combat, aerial combat, more races, and lastly just scavenging and collecting parts, which usually required more combat. But that was about it. And with a total of 59 missions across all the planets, it did get quite repetitive. But still just enough variation to not be completely mind-numbing. With Jakku completed, my next trip was to the home of Mazkanata and the Diminutive base of operations. This lush, neutral planet has 8 carbonite bricks, 35 gold bricks, 3 races and 10 missions. Working through pretty much exactly the same as Jakku, I very quickly found myself having collected everything and heading to the penultimate planet, Dakar, home of the Resistance headquarters. Dakar is by far the smallest area we have to clean up, but it still packs quite a mighty punch. With 6 carbonite bricks, 42 gold bricks, 2 races and 11 missions, still plenty to get on with. But I quite quickly found out that Dakar has a bit more to punch than I thought it did to begin with. Extra missions? Nope. Bugs? Nope. Didn't have any problems with bugs. Instead it just decided to spontaneously crash and close my game. For no obvious reason. Now I honestly thought I'd gone through all of my problems once I'd completed the dreaded Chapter 8, but here we are having to restart the game. Fortunately, the game booted straight back up, no progress lost, so I very precariously completed the rest of Dakar. And before I know it, I was left with just the one planet. Starkiller Base. The second biggest of the planets, if you can really call it that. The massive first order superweapon has 10 carbonite bricks, 55 gold bricks, 7 races and 24 missions, which meant this was going to be another big grind to end it out. But it's not all doom and gloom. This was the last planet after all. So that meant there was plenty of achievements on the horizon. And they came in thick and fast. He's No Good Dead to Me, 60 portions, less than 12 parsecs, a big deal in the Resistance, and bow to the First Order for completing all bounty hunts, scavenger missions, races, Resistance missions, and First Order missions respectively. Which wraps us up with all the collectibles. But as the keen eye amongst you might have noticed, we're on 249 out of 250 gold bricks. So we're still missing that one elusive gold brick. That's because this could only be collected after unlocking the final bonus mission, Starkiller Destruction. Starkiller Destruction is the final bonus mission, which is a staple in LEGO games. For this, you're playing in quite a weird way. You're playing as the Starkiller base, sort of the entire planet sort of thing, flying around destroying planets with a super high powered laser, with only one gold in common, collecting 1,000,000 studs. This was quite a drastic change to the regular gameplay, and honestly, I was all for it. But there's always one thing that I enjoy more than the gameplay, and that's obtaining gold brick number 250 and having officially collected every single item in the game. So that means I've got the 100%, I'd probably hear you asking. Well, not quite. As I briefly referenced earlier, the 35 carbonite bricks that I collected are used to unlock various characters from the classic Star Wars. So this meant one last trip back to the base of operations of the Resistance, Dakar. And what ended up being quite a long process to unlock all 35 of these characters. They all have this weird cutscene, and it just sort of drags on. But with all 35 classic characters unlocked, I had obtained 100% completion, and the achievement, The Force is Strong with this one, for doing so. Which would be a really great place to have finished the game and unlocked all basic game achievements. But I'll be honest, I didn't think that far ahead. I'd only got 46 out of the 49 achievements at this point, so before heading out of Dakar, I had one last little pit stop. And that was to create a custom character for the achievement Crypto Surgeon. Having already obtained the 100% completion, I had to think of a nice backup location to obtain the last of these game achievements, and I could think of no place better than arguably the most iconic location in all of Star Wars. The Millennium Falcon. All I had to do was swap characters to Unkar Plutt for Hey, That's Mine. And finally, after almost 20 hours, switching to Han Solo Classic, for Chewie We're Home, and 100% of LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. That means it's time for my final thoughts. Like I said in the intro, I love a good LEGO game, and this one was no different. Going into this with very, very little knowledge of the Star Wars franchise, I honestly had not low expectations, but like relatively. But I was very happily surprised. It really reminded me of the complete saga, which I used to play all the way back on the Nintendo Wii. But that might just be the Star Wars label rather than the actual base gameplay. But the levels flowed really nicely, and even as someone who's not seen the movie in years, I could follow along quite easily. With that being said, the game has some rather obvious flaws, which I made abundantly clear throughout the video, namely the joystick minigame bug and the various crashes that I experienced. But that, mixed with the repetitiveness of some of the planet missions, did have me a little bit bored by the end of it. But I would say they didn't subtract from my enjoyment too much from the game. I still thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm very much looking forward to my next LEGO adventure. As always, before I end the video, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone that has stuck by and watched till the end. As a little reward, you can all have this lovely little rubber ducky. Now, if you got to this point without falling asleep, well, first of all, congratulations, that's no easy feat. But make sure to leave a comment with May the 4th be with you, and any feedback that you may have, whether that's positive or negative. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and if you enjoyed the video, head over to my Twitch in the description for all of the live content. Now once again, thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video, where hopefully we're cleaning up a bit of the backlog.